Damn! That hurt like fucking hell!
You know you could have used the code word at any time, right?
Chicken out and miss that sublime, out-of-body experience.
Out of body.
It's spiritual. Something you wouldn't understand, little sister.
Oh, I understand. Your narcissistic tendencies won't let you admit when you're in over your head. You just can't accept the positions of mistress and slave. You have to come up with some great spiritual nonsense to give yourself an experience so sublime that you think you're somehow superior.
Oh, Anastasia. 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 My dear little sister. You see the world in one dimension only, where I experience it at so many levels. You thought I was passed out, but I was hovering above you, watching you eat my eyeball. I only returned to my body so I could savor the sublime agony.
So you came back into your body so you could feel the pain?
Pain and pleasure are not within the body, little girl. If that were the case, how do you explain phantom limb syndrome? Oh, the senses of taste, touch, smell, sight, and sound are not within this fleshy carcass. If they were, then how was I able to watch you eating my eyeball without my eyes open?
So pain and pleasure don't exist in the same body. Let's put this to the test, shall we?
Oh, a finger? Ha! Child's play.
Imagine this is your penis. Pain and pleasure don't exist in the same body. Then you don't need a penis in order to derive sexual pleasure.
Stop playing with your food.
So let's talk about where pain and pleasure really reside. You want to put this to the test, David? Will little sister cut big brother's willy off and eat it? Or should I eat your testicles first?
As much as I like the dirty talk, and even relish the idea, such an action would be a breach of trust. We did set the boundaries before this session, did we not?
That was when this was only a bondage session. You had to make a girl spiritual. And you know how much I hate religion. You didn't tell me beforehand this was going to be something religious.
Don't twist this into something else. We set clear boundaries. We set a clear safety word.
But you broke the trust, Big Brother. We set boundaries for a bondage session only. I do find the idea of masochism in a religious setting is highly intriguing. But, you know, self-flagellation and suffering to either appease a great deity or to work off bad karma.
No. Mellow! There! I said it!
The safe word!
Mellow!
Pain and pleasure really reside in the body.
I said it! Mellow!
Oh, Dave. So obsolete. Welcome to my temple of pain! No more mansplaining! No more mansplaining! Let's see if pain, pleasure, and manhood come from the penis. Shall we? Twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above, like a diamond in the sky.
You have the right to remain silent. And the right to suck my cock.
Well, thank you for watching Sinister Symbiosis. That was a really, really special film, and we were glad to premiere it on the Grim and Bloody Theater. And joining us is writer, producer, and director David Black. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah,
Welcome, David.
Yeah, I thought right off the bat, I love the intimacy between the brother and sister, as the film's name implies. they both shared this kinship that you can tell right off the bat, that it was almost like they were playing a dangerous game that went off the rails towards the end, and one person got a little bit more out of it than the other. You want to talk about what started the film? Like, what was your inspiration behind it?
Well, I was originally asked, could I make a film that was for an anthology that was coming up that was about fetishes? And I had to choose a fetish. But I was making so many films last year and the year before that it's hard to explain, but my mind was mush all of the time. So I did get it scripted, but I couldn't get it filmed, edited, and out there in time. In fact, I missed the deadline by about a year.
Wow.
Only a year.
Well, the one thing that I kind of noticed, and I wanted to touch with you on it, you seem to present with this film a connection between horror or terror and sexuality. Was that something that you kind of wanted to discuss with the film? The fine line between between pleasure and terror?
It dawned on me. Really, I'd just been presented with, please do something about a fetish, and I couldn't choose one. So I thought, look, I'll write up a film where I explore quite a lot of fetishes, and I did have quite a bit of experience in the bondage scene. I mean, the full-on bondage scene. I'm not actually into bondage, but being into goth meant that I'd gone to a lot of bondage clubs, and I'd already filmed music videos for my band at 2 bondage clubs. So, and I'd experimented. I'd been through a couple of sessions before. So I thought, you know what? A bondage session would be a good setting for this. So, yes, I did want to explore sexuality, but I was more looking at different fetishes that we could bring up, like you've seen just earlier tonight.
Right.
Things that you might not have thought of, like you're just watching a film and then you realize, oh my God, there's actually a name for that.
True.
I like that part where you were adding the different terms, and it just I've never seen that in a film. Maybe, I guess, with Zombieland did that a little bit as far as like educating the viewer as it went on, right, and keeping them entertained with the different roles. I liked how you were including the different terminologies for what they were experiencing in the different stages, and each term, it grew more extreme as it went on. I thought that was a really nice addition.
I probably missed quite a lot because although I said I was into bondage and been to bondage clubs, when it came down to actually filming one of our music videos at a bondage club about 3 years ago, there was a hell of a lot that I didn't know. So, I mean, I got in there and some of the equipment is stuff I'd never seen. And as I'm being explained, a lot of the things that go on, I'd never heard of the terms. I didn't realize there were courses for the bondage masters to do. So I probably missed a lot. I'm sure the film's been a shocker for some people, but there's stuff out there that we haven't even scratched the surface of.
Yes. It's probably late in the game to tell them now, but that was extreme. I thought it wasn't unsettling. I thought it was fun. There was some lightheartedness in there. There was a lot of back and forth between the brother and sister, which I caught on. But yeah, the dismemberments, those added up.
Hey, man, don't go there.
Well, we already went there.
No, I've heard of that stuff being done for real. Boy, I did one shoot at a place, and I said, "Is it okay if we have a lot of fake blood?" And we brought in liters and liters, and the guy said, "Yeah, bring as much as you like. We can hose the place down." I didn't go into more details about it, but I found out later that it was a room where real blood play was, and I found out because when we were trying to clean up, people are have got ammonia coming up and getting into their eyes, and everybody's angry with me. And I asked the guy that owned the club when this started coming up what had happened. And he said, we have real blood play in that room. We've got the most extreme cleaning agents used to clean the place up.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so there is, I'm not saying that the place we filmed at, they were actually cutting off body parts, but it does go on.
Yeah. I've I have experimented with some of that myself, and I can attest to what you're talking about. My question to you is, I thought it was rather interesting, was the way that you the angle that you present the two characters, David, yourself, and Anastasia, is that of two predators. Both. It seemed like a point in the film where both are trying to get one up each other, and kind of gain a hold of the scenario for their own sexual gratification. Was that something that you guys talked about?
In a way, it's something that I've experienced in real life, not with my own sister, obviously, but when you're when you're in the acting scene, and Melbourne's terrible for it, there's a lot of narcissists, and David in this is a narcissist. He's only going to see what's in his own head. So the one-upmanship is really in his own head. The reality we're watching is happening.
Yeah.
By the time he clicks on that anything is really happening, it might be a bit late. But then again, I don't know, because he had the forethought to actually make sure that the whole thing was being streamed out live. So people will have to work that out themselves. Was he such a narcissist that he wanted his bondage session to be watched by a lot of people, or was it a protection factor?
Oh,
Right.
nice.
Oh, by the way, David, I have a fun question for you. What was the most difficult scene to film in this?
Well, actually, a lot of it was where I'm supposed to be trying to shake off everything. Like I broke the props during it, which is why in the end scene where I really needed to go psycho and tried to, I couldn't. We weren't going to get another take, and it was like, well, I've broken all of the chains. So in that way, that one was a difficult scene. But I could say that nearly everything in that was difficult, because I give a lot of leeway to the actors and the crew. And I didn't go in there expecting as much blood as there was. So it was freezing cold, and I ended up with everything being soaked through on blood. And when I asked the people that had loaned us the place, do you have something that I could put on, like just a T-shirt? I got ripped off being told, yeah, I'll sell you one for $30. Here's a second-hand T-shirt from my dirty laundry basket. It happens a lot, things like that. They get into you when you've got no choice. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but it's what happened.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what I want to go back a little bit and just get an idea. What was your role model growing up, as far as getting into film, getting into horror film? I saw some things that kind of suggested to me in this film, Sinister Symbiosis, that were similar to Argento.
You picked it.
Yeah. So give us an idea of who your muses as they were growing up.
Well, you just picked it.
That's it.
I never once actually went to the cinema saying there's a Dario Argento movie. But what happened was I used to go to the cinema with my brother Stephen. He's passed away a long time ago. But I never knew what he'd chosen to see. And he did choose an Argento movie. The name's gone out of my head. I know it inside out, but it's the one where. Do you remember one where suddenly a room is just full of water? Might be Tenebrae. It's one of the trilogy. He took me to see that one.
Right.
I know that we didn't go with the washed out color effect, hyper intense color effect that Argento does, and I know that we didn't have these beautiful settings. But in me is Argento, and the director Gerardo also told me when I first met him that. Dario was an influence of his too. So between two people with the Dario influence, something had to come out.
Yes.
Oh, I also remember being at school. I did film and TV appreciation, and of all things, this is like in Form 5, so when you're maybe 14 or 15, the teacher took the class off to see a Dario Argento movie.
Wow.
Wow. What?
The Fates were having fun with you that day. The Fates were telling you something, huh?
Well, we didn't even though it's film and TV appreciation, I don't even recall there being a discussion about the movie afterwards. So I was just lucky that without knowing who Dario was, because I didn't discover him until the VHS days, but without knowing who he was, there was at least 3 occasions where I saw Dario Argento films. Didn't choose them, I was the one being taken to them. So yeah, he's definitely an influence. I'm not really sure who my influences are in the movies because, like with Dario, I can pick out what isn't Dario in that movie. I couldn't afford his locations, and being in Melbourne, we don't have anything ancient. So he just had locations, never gone with the hyper color that he had. And there's a lot that he does that isn't in mine. So, but I do know that he's a major influence. So if somebody else has picked that, that's great.
Right. Well, the thing that I was looking at was one of the things that Dario likes to do is show you a blood scene, but not so much. Show it to you, but then take it away. Whereas other filmmakers like to show it and have it linger a bit. Dario, like yourself, in this one here, you tend to show it, but then pan the camera away. Much of what we see in your short is the reaction, the screams of pain and pleasure and so forth, rather than seeing the actual cutting off of the or focusing on the cutting off of the appendage. We see you like to go with the camera reaction. That's why I was thinking of Argento and how he liked to cut away.
Now that would be a combination of the DOP. With our DOP, I wouldn't be surprised if she told me she was a major Dario Argento fan. But she had the shot list done and I left the shots to her. I made suggestions, but I don't force them on the sets. So I'm actually there, whether I'm credited as the director or I've given the credit away, I actually do the same amount of work in the directing. So I treat the shoots totally different to anybody else I've ever heard of. I have the script, I get everybody together. I don't put people through rehearsals, desk reads, or having to even try out for the films. I just get the people, chat to them online. Most of them I've worked with before, but I chat to them with what I'd like to do with their characters, but expect them to create their characters. And because everybody doing these films is actually doing them either for free or for a token payment. So I have to allow enough artistic room for someone to come out and say, this is my film. So yeah, in the editing, Gerardo's can definitely say, this is my film. I've done a lot. Our DOP can definitely say, this is my film. Anastasia can say, yes, this is the way I wanted to act. All I told Anastasia is how I wanted her to dress.
Yeah.
Hmm.
David, question. I really enjoyed one of the scenes where I don't want to spoil. Well, it's already planned. But when you get your eye taken out, and giving that beautiful speech to Anastasia, you know, I really love that scene. Yes.
That was a favourite to script. Not necessarily to do, because I actually enjoyed every scene pretty much equally. But in the scripting, I go for something very different. I actually go for real spiritual principles, real metaphysics. For instance, in one that we just did, had go up maybe a month ago, a character, as soon as a demon appears into our realm, a character goes, flies off into another. And the main person, the high priest, says, it's the law of displacement. Something has entered our realm, and so an equal amount of energy, matter, must be sucked into its realm. With that, I was actually where the eyeball is, and he's talking about phantom limb syndrome and where the consciousness lies. I wanted to get into real metaphysics, so that was the opportunity. And of course, Anastasia is not somebody, or her character is somebody who is not into that.
No, it seemed like she also took that as a challenge to push him even further to prove his point that you don't think these two are related. Okay, well, let's see how much more I could take off before you think it's real. I like that part. Yeah, it seemed like, you know, when he kind of, you know, released his manifesto, she took that as a challenge. Like, maybe this is no longer a game. Maybe you have something to prove. I'm gonna help you prove it.
Oh, I think she did that quite well. As soon as because he's a narcissist. It's a strange one, having a narcissist that's actually going to be okay with body parts like an eyeball or a finger being taken off, because they see themselves as perfect. So to have an imperfection come up on the body, I know that sort of jars, but there is a point that he can't go any further and keep up the charade.
Yeah,
and is broken.
Matter of fact,
go ahead.
Before we were talking about, I'm sorry. Before we were talking about humorous moments in the film, and I was just, as you guys were talking, I was just reflecting on once the eyeball is taken out, and after he's lying, or he's head first on the table, finally wakes up and says, "Is that the best you've got?" I just couldn't help but just start laughing, at it. I'm thinking, what more does this guy want? That kind of thing. But then that's, when you go into your talk about spirituality and so forth, it just struck me as very darkly amusing.
It's a bit Monty Python, like with I think it's the Black Knight, where he gets his arms cut off and his legs cut off, and he says, I'll bite you on the ankles.
So, the Holy Grail, is that the best you've got?
Narcissists are really like
it's
that.
A blood wound. I can still fight. Ooh. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I had a question as far as the casting. When Anastasia was reading the script and she saw the parts where, you're going to eat an eye, you're going to rub a finger all over you, and then you're going to hold, a penis at the end and, pose for the camera. Was there at any point where she said, this might be too much for me, or was she completely game even when she got on the set? Was there any hesitation which you kind of had to smooth it over and say, what, just you want to fall into it for, a brief period? As you said, make it your film. Was she completely game? Because I could tell you that would have been hard for me as far as a director saying, all right, this is the part where you eat the eyeball. That must have taken some real skills to get that going.
Oh, eating an eyeball was no problem, because we've all done a bit of horror. In fact, we've done quite a bit. I did have the worry that she wouldn't go for it because it was a sexy film. Because I don't know. I was worried about that, and I did speak to her about that before, and I also spoke to her about it afterwards, and she's been very happy with that.
Awesome.
Because it's, well, that was one of the reasons why I needed to have a female DOP on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a worry. Somebody might shoot something and then they decide later on, oh, I'm not happy with that. Well, every producer and director gets that.
Yeah.
But I'm friends with all of the people that I'm shooting with.
That helps.
I do hate to lose a friendship, which I've lost a few on the way with here and there with shoots. And I didn't want to lose Anastasia as a friend. So I did discuss it with her, but she liked it. She looked at that, and I've forgotten what her actual words are, but she was happy with that. It's not that we're just doing one sort of film together. We've done different films. The last one we did, it was anything but sexy. It was a post-apocalyptic one where a husband and wife have to discuss whether or not they're actually going to sacrifice their baby.
Oh, wow.
Heavy.
But
that one did quite well. It's been a very popular one. It's not necessarily horror, but it is pretty horrific, the situation they're in.
I bet. Yeah. That's some heavy material.
Yeah. So if you're doing a wide variety of things, it's not that you're saying to one of your female stars, hey, I want you to come off and do this sexy film, and that's all they're ever going to do. It's a case of, yes, sex and sexiness is a major part of life. It's not like every film's going to be violent. Violence is a part of life. It's a case of exploring life by doing very different things, different genres every time.
True. You know, I look at it this way. As an actor or a filmmaker, you don't necessarily want to be typecast in the same genre. You want to go and branch out and do different films. You could do a comedy. You could do sci-fi. You could do fantasy. And then, you know, eventually if you want to come back to horror, you can come back to horror or drama, whatever appeals to you. That's how I look at it as a film fan. It's not going to discourage me from not following anyone that I like as a filmmaker. Like, oh, he's going to make a comedy. Never mind. You know, no, that's not me. You know.
I agree 100%. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. Make every film different to the last. But there aren't a lot of horror movies amongst it because the horror community is very supportive. Yeah. If I look back at the main films that I got into all my life, horror's about a third, sci-fi is about a third, and then fantasy, things like Game of Thrones and Sword and Sorcery, that's about a third. Of course, some of that sci-fi crosses over with horror, some of that fantasy crosses over with horror. But at the end of the day, it's really just our horror community that will get behind you and give you a chance.
Yeah,
very true.
Definitely.
And as a horror host, that's what I love to do with filmmakers, actors, actresses. I just like, you know, if they have something they want me to promote, hey, I'll promote it. It doesn't do, you know, me any harm to get the word out about, you know, let's say if Anthony had a short horror film that he was coming up with and he said, hey, Joe, can you mention I have a short film called blah, blah, you know, I'd do it, you know, or Kevin or anyone that I know. And I'll just say, yeah, there you go.
Well, David's a horror host as well. I was about to ask about, you are part of the, I think you founded the Horror House?
Yeah,
a platform that screens indie filmmakers.
Yep, I did one season of Horror House. I'm going to keep my host character, Count Fungula, but I won't be doing a second season. I won't be doing a second season of Horror House. I've taken Count Fungula, or I should say, Count Fungula, and
that's pretty good. That's pretty good. A little Bela Lugosi in there. I'm liking it. I didn't realize that you were such the drama queen.
Oh yeah. Well, Cunt Fungula is a combination of, say, Max Schreck's look of the vampire and Bela Lugosi. He's comedy, he's schlocky, and I've got him as the host for Dramatica Diablos, which is the new series, and the film we saw tonight is the fourth in the Dramatica Diablos series. So everybody that watched tonight got to see it before I actually release it.
Awesome.
I release it in maybe a week's time with the Dramatica Diablos intro and outro, and Count Fungula coming on saying, "Welcome to Dramatica Diablos. I am Count Fungula," and then he'll go off into some stupid joke.
There you go.
I got goosebumps just now. You make a scary vampire. I'm telling you.
Oh, it would be scary.
Right,
You're the kind of vampire that doesn't need the vampire clothing, right, to pull it off.
No.
Oh no, the makeup for Cunt Fungula costs a lot. I have to have a makeup artist in, and because it's blue all of the way down, or blue grey, and we've got ears to stick on and fangs. The crap gets onto any costume that I've got and pretty much wrecks it. So Horror House was an incredibly, compared to my usual budgets, Horror House was very expensive to film. And my original idea was I'd just been getting into the indie movie industry. Although I'd been making music videos for my band Darkness Visible for maybe 8 years before that, now probably up to 11 years, I felt that I was a newcomer to the industry, and I went to film festivals and indie film nights, and I thought, my God, there's a number of fantastic Aussie films that never get seen. And I wanted to, they couldn't be seen normally because they were just shorts. If you wanted them on television, you needed a half-hour show or an hour show. If you wanted a DVD, you needed at least an hour and a half. So I did make inquiries to a releasing company to see if I could get all of these short films for friends released. And they said, oh, it just doesn't pay for DVDs anymore. It costs this much to go through ratings. It costs that much for this, costs that much for that. And the idea came up to do a hosted horror show. But by the time that show was finished and a year later edited, I was already making my own short films on a regular basis. Some of the people who I'd given a platform to and put their films out had been fantastic, kept in contact, been supportive. And I'm going to be absolutely nasty here, but some were absolute pricks. It's like they watched me coming up and making films just like them. They got jealous. And then I'm seeing that I've got people stabbing me in the back. And I thought, I'm never doing another bloody series like this. Too many people turn on you.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Put your time into yourself.
You know,
it seems like too much personal.
Yeah, luckily for me, no one has been so bad to me yet, and keep my fingers crossed, because I've been doing my TV show for a local cable show, coming up on 19 years as of life.
Woohoo!
Yeah, the most patriotic day here in the U.S., 4th of July. I get to maybe blow myself up. I don't know. So I want to pick up my pieces later. No, but I definitely, looking forward to your next film for sure, David.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, we shot that one before the lockdown. There was actually a very long period of time between shooting that and it coming out. That's why we missed the deadline by maybe a year. I think we missed the deadline just with the shooting by weeks. And if I'd gotten it edited up, we would have gotten it out in time for the anthology. I'm now finished with all of the backlog that needed editing. So now I've got to get creative like everybody else and say, what can I do to shoot during lockdown? And I've got something teed up.
Nice.
Oh, Watch out, people. It's on the film.
I was going to ask you if you were forced to become creative with this pandemic going on. I'm hearing and speaking to a lot of filmmakers who are having to do things other than principal shooting, writing, editing, storyboarding in some cases. I was going to ask you how you were getting around this this lockdown. Are you doing writing still now that the editing is complete?
I was going to, but I already had about 10 scripts that haven't been shot. Mm-hmm. So I thought, I'm not going to go ahead and write up more scripts. I decided actually just to study. So
that's a good time to do it.
Yeah, well, I paid for a LinkedIn subscription, which probably sounds silly for a filmmaker, but they actually do have filmmaking. They actually do have filmmaking courses there.
Yeah, they do.
But it's mainly doing.
As well.
You're doing it too. Yeah,
I haven't done the courses, but I know which ones you're talking about.
Yeah, I've been mainly doing stuff on marketing, writing press releases, PR. I've done about 30 courses because I thought when we come out of this lockdown, things have got to change. I'm at about, I've done Horror House, which is a series of 6 hosted horror shows, and they're actually showing on TV at the moment anyway. They're showing in South Australia. I've done a feature film that only needs a little bit more done to finish that up. It's almost finished. And I've got probably 30 short movies.
Jeez.
What am I going to do? 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. Something's got to change, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I thought the only thing I can change is myself. Let's go back to the drawing board and start learning other things. But yeah, I do have one film that I scripted up purely for the lockdown, which is a narrated film called Clink Clunk Clonk. And I would have done it a month ago, but I did also hit a bit of a depression with the lockdown because I was so used to being on sets all of the time and go, go, go. So after I've got this done today, tomorrow I'll actually do Clink Clunk Clonk because I've got to put on a whole lot of makeup for it, and I've got to actually get all of the footage, and I'll get that to Gerardo to turn it into something amazing. And you've seen what he did with this film tonight. The man's just a pure genius. So much so, I don't even think he needs me because he did a film in lockdown where he played both characters.
Nice.
Wow.
He used a green screen, so you think he's actually standing in front of the other character. And I looked at it and I thought, my God, this is as good as any film you would film outside of lockdown. And he finished it up at the end by... when the credits come up, showing how he made every effect. And I thought,
I like those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pull back the curtain a little bit.
Yeah. So you start seeing how he did everything. And it all came up because I got him to edit another film. And I said, well, look, the person in this film, the demon is supposed to move like Samara. And I don't know if he'd ever seen that before, but he goes and he watches The Well and does a takeoff of The Well for his short film.
Oh, wow.
So it's a horror comedy. And I looked at it and I thought, my God, why am I taking up this man's time? Have a look at this man is a genius. So he's done a lockdown film that you'd never know was done in lockdown. Played all of the characters himself, used a green screen. So he's like there and there he is again. And it's like 2 different actors interacting. So I'm 100% sure that whatever I do with my narrated film, which I will film on the iPhone, I'm sure he will turn it into something. And I think the secret of getting a great product when you're working with geniuses is to give them the room to be the genius that they are.
Definitely.
I would like to, I'm thinking that you're thinking, walk up to Gerardo and tell him, thank you for not leaving me. Thank you. Please, what do I have to do to get you to stay around? Because you're realizing just what a phenomenal talent he is.
I lose everyone anyway. Now, it's got nothing to do with what I was talking about before with scene politics. Everybody's got that in their own scene. But what happens is somebody comes in and their crew and they're a soundy, right? They do 2 films with me and the next thing it's like, hey, Dave, I've got a full-time job as a soundy. And it's like, fantastic. And another one will be an editor and they'll come back to me after a couple and say, I got a full-time job as an editor. So I was working for crew. They do a couple for me. I'm not saying it's me that did it for them, but they take away this product and they show it to some place that needs editing or needs a soundy and says, here's the work I did. And they show it and I lose them. Actors tend to stick around because it's very hard to make a living as an actor. But if you've got the experience, you've got some product you can actually show to say, look, here is my work on lighting. These were my lights. I used them. Here is my work on editing. This is my work. There's my work on sound. They take the work and they get work. So
Yeah.
I don't get to keep great talent because I'm not managing to move up like they are and have money coming in. If I could say to somebody that has edited for me, this next job is a paying one, I've got a couple of thousand, they'd stick with me. So, I'm not moving up at the same level as they are. So, if I lose talent for that reason, I'll call it a success, even though it's their success. I'm lucky that people work with me and new people come in all of the time to replace the people that went off and got themselves jobs.
It's like your children have grown up and have left the house. Then you get more children.
They don't fully go away. I had one that edited up a few films for me. He was basically saving me like Gerardo does all of the time. I had some unedited films where people that had shot them were supposed to edit them didn't come through. So they shot them and we got all of this crappy footage and it's like, oh my God. And the guy just goes straight to work editing everything and then gets a job editing at a local TV station, says, look, I can't do my full-time job editing and then come home and edit again. I said, that's no problem. When the big bushfires were going on in Melbourne and we were going to shoot something to help with that, he said, I'll edit it for free. I didn't end up needing him as an editor. Gerardo came in and edited that one. But some of the people that have worked with me before, if something comes up like the bushfires, they'll put their hand up and they'll just come in and do it. So, the children haven't left forever.
True. And that's a good thing because, hey, you never know when they're going to pop back in and say, hey, you need, a lighting guy? You need a special effects guy?
But you left and I rented your room out to this other guy.
Well, I'm hoping the answer is never for them coming back because that would mean they lost their job.
Yeah.
These guys, all of these people that I've lost had years of experience before. I think what might have happened with them is basically a lot of filmmakers won't let anybody touch anything. So an actor says, can I have some footage for the my show reel? And the person holds on to it. They won't let them have any footage.
That's
Other people say, can I take... Oh, it happens a lot.
Really?
Other people say, can I take some pictures behind the scenes, put on my Facebook? They're asking for stuff. They're not being given it. So if you've done the sound for a film and a person says, but I want to sell that film. So they keep it tucked away from everybody else. Or they say, I'm about to do the film festival circuit, so I can't have you having this. My answer is, I'm only making films because I want to get acting work at a later date.
Yeah.
Those films have just got to go up on YouTube. They've got to go up everywhere. Anybody that worked on them, the only thing I ask is don't give away the twist at the end.
True.
That's right.
Yeah, use all of the footage you want. Put it up on your own YouTube channel. We get in behind the scenes photographers and stuff, and it's like, yes, use all of the photos you want. The makeup artist will get photos of themselves at work, even footage of themselves. So it's a case of, yeah, let's get it all out. Being precious and saying, it's mine, mine, mine. And suddenly your soundie says, yeah, I worked on all of these films. And somebody says, where can I see them? No, you can't.
Yeah.
So maybe, I'm just saying it's a big maybe, but maybe they got work because they could finally say, yes, you can see my last two.
Well, when I did the hiring on my 2 short films, those who had demo reels were hired, and those who basically said, well, I have experience on here and here and here. It's tough to judge, especially when you can see visually their work, the finished product, maybe the effort that they put in. When someone says, I did audio work, but you can't hear it, you don't know how good it was, and you start maybe like, well, can I see the film that was done? Oh, well, it was done by this guy and he doesn't have it anymore. But so how do I know that you did a good job? How do I know that, the contributions that you put in the film elevated, the art? So the demo reels, I think those definitely help. And like you said, I received a lot of requests for, can I show behind the scenes photos? Can I show clips? And I said, you know what? Just so you said, this is your film as well, because most of them were working for free because both of them were low budgets.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? You by you being there, working for basically lunch and the credit, you can use as much as you want. I would say just show it in a positive light. Don't show any of like the kooky behind the scenes photos. Maybe we're fumbling and we made a mistake, or if you are, show the finished product, because after principal photography, there was a lot of time spent in the editing room. So for me, I kind of wanted to make sure whatever footage was shown was the good footage, right? Not the footage like, oh, I can't believe that's out there because I made all sorts of corrections. So you should have seen the better one that was out there. So that was my only thing. Other than that, we had a photographer on set, and he took a lot of nice pictures behind the scenes, and it looks like kind of some nice atmosphere. It looked like there was an actual photographer that was taking pictures versus someone who just had a smartphone that was taking snaps everywhere. So I'm always open for everyone to, because I want them, just like you, I want them to grow. And you say you're working for credit, so here's your credit. Build a reel. I hope this runs as a nice segment on your video that you're going to show future employers.
I agree. I'll actually add to that a little bit. I do get some people that want to collect IMDB credits. And I was a bit late with getting a lot of people's up. I got bailed out by a fella that does IMDB credits, and he's still fixing them up now because there was something like 40 that weren't up there.
Oh, wow.
So I was a bit late to the party on some stuff, but 100% agree with you that you just should put it out there, let everybody get something out of it and move up. But getting back to the IMDB credits, a lot of the stuff I've been watching, say, on Netflix with younger actors that have now made it, right? Not just Netflix, but a lot of the series. I mean, there was one came out recently called Salem. I think there's If you have a look at the main actresses in all of that, their IMDb credits, most of them, they've only got 10.
Or less.
Or less, because what the actors that get to me and they go, I've got 120 credits, what they don't realize is if you've got 120 credits over 10 years, you are telling a director that you are poison. You have been in 120 films and stuffed it up for them because you didn't get them anywhere. These actresses, I don't actually believe that, but that's what directors will think. These actresses, the main one in Salem, I could have chosen quite a lot of different films. She was in, I think it was Daredevil. She had an accident where her face got cut. It's not a good way of explaining her, but you have a look at her. She did 2 indie films. Then she moved up to a major Marvel film. Then she's just done a knockout job in Salem. That's actually the normal story. So with me, with the IMDb credits, I'm up to maybe 35 or 40 films I've been in, and I'm thinking, my God, I'm poisoning myself. I'm telling people, hey, I didn't make it in 40 films. You get what I mean?
It's like a resume. With the credits, as you say, if you look at a resume and you see 3 or 4 jobs, but each job it was better than the other, and there was a length of time with the jobs, then you're thinking this person was consistent. Whatever they worked, they must have been doing a good job because they were stayed on for some amount of years. And their next job was, maybe pay a little bit more, had a loftier title. Looks like they were ascending. Yeah, and the other thing with the IMDb, I don't know if you're aware, you can put your own credits. Nothing stops you, which means you can make as many mini short films about yourself as you want, and you can give yourself the credits of I've written, directed, and produced 65 short films. They were all shot by me, featuring me.
Yeah.
So I think it definitely it dilutes the your credit when you put so much on there. As you said, those who have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but there's ascending. They started off as maybe an extra. Their next one is they were supporting cast. The next one is their lead actor. Next one is their lead actor, and they were also as a producer. That shows that they've been rising up in the ranks and really putting some to it.
That's what I was trying to say, and I made it sound so negative. You've put it
not at all.
correctly in a positive spin. I wasn't trying to. I know what I said and how it came out. It sounded like I was trying to say a number of actors are poison. What I mean is the actors that are chasing these credits that get up to 100, 110, they're actually shooting themselves in the foot.
Exactly.
Like you've said, you need only a handful, and if you want to get the media attention, you've got to show a rocket rise that you really are really making a big jump.
Yeah.
The last thing you want is 100 credits that say you're a background actor.
That'd be me. No, no.
Gotcha.
Seriously, I always tell people when I do my show, and sometimes some of my friends who are filmmakers locally, they'll ask me, "Hey, you want to be in my short little film?" And I go, "Okay, I'll do it, but I'm telling you right now, I am no actor. You got,
just feed me my lines."
Yeah, just give me, hey, I don't need any lines. Just let me ad lib, and I'll just do the best I can. And because I'll tell you the honest truth. One of the filmmakers I interviewed during one of my first years on, they made a movie. Then they made a sequel, and then they said, "Hey, during the sequel, we'd like you and your co-host to come in and be extras." And so they gave me nice little lines, and I was going okay. And I was trying to remember my lines, and I kept going over my lines. I kept on messing up my lines, and I was just going "What? You really want me to say that? Okay." And the best thing was that I kept cracking up everybody because I kept messing up my lines. And I was going, "So sorry. I told you I'm no actor." And so, but, I
So you pulled a Beyonce on Austin Powers set, basically.
Yeah. Zizzle my nizzle, man.
Oh, real actors mess up their lines all of the time too.
Yes. But, yeah. That's all I'm saying is that, you won't really, if you see anything that I'm, you can find stuff that I'm in on probably YouTube or on a DVD. I just go yes, I admit I was in that, and thank you, guys. But, yes.
Well, where can we find your stuff, David? Where can we find you on the interwebs?
Oh, well, I've got a YouTube channel. Can I get the link to you later and you can put it up on the screen?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because with YouTube, trying to remember all of those letters and numbers becomes a bit difficult. It might be easier just to have a clickable link at the end.
Absolutely. I'll put that in.
But even that being said, I've found that social media has become like a house of cards more and more in the last few years. So if my YouTube channel ever disappeared or got locked, like I've seen happen to so many others, I would still be getting my films out there on every VOD site, every other YouTube competitor that I can. So I'm going to be somewhere. It's just that I noticed people are getting their YouTube, their Twitter, their Facebook accounts. They put years and years of work into them. Suddenly it gets locked, and all they're getting back is form letters. You know, it's like there isn't a normal human being there looking and reading it and saying, oh yes, we've made a mistake, or here's what you actually did that we felt was wrong. So accounts are being locked all of the time. So it's a case of, yes, here's YouTube, here's my channel for now. If it gets locked, I'm not about to disappear. All of the films will still exist. If my Twitter, where I promote everything, I think it's got 23,000 followers.
Nice.
If that it was hard work. And actually, when I go to the Twitter, and this is where the real panic set in, I use a tool that shows you who unfollowed you. It's a legal one. Everyone can do it. And I find every day there are Twitter accounts that are gone. Now, I already know that there aren't bullshit accounts on my Twitter. They're real people. I didn't build this like with some tool where you get thousands come in. So when I go in and I see, oh, geez, there's all of these YouTube accounts that disappeared, and it doesn't tell you who they were, and I wonder who they were. And I can just see Twitter is getting rid of people. Facebook, people are telling me their accounts got locked all of the time and they had to start over again.
Oh, no.
And when I go to Reddit, the conversations there with a lot of people is about their YouTube accounts getting locked and having to start over again.
Oh, geez.
So social media has just become, since a lot of places like Twitter, YouTube, etc., became like the establishment, they've basically, the people that they want in the beginning, they've basically been getting rid of. I mean, originally they were the new thing. They were going to be the great leveler for everybody that was indie. You're going to get a platform so you don't have to try to get your stuff on TV. You've got free promotion. And then they started limiting it bit by bit by bit with algorithms. And now they don't really want these Yahoo creators anymore. So when I mention YouTube, if that link ever goes down, don't worry, I will be back.
We're just going to Google David Black. Top link that comes up. Well, you actually come up. You're the top link. You Google David Black, you come up.
Originally, I used to have the nickname Darvis, which was short for Darkness Visible. And I lost my Facebook account, and I could only ever guess that that was because they had a real name policy. They just locked it. I could never unlock it. And the word Darvis has gone out of use because it's not being used a lot on social media by me now. And Darvis was so unique. You could put Darvis in and I'd be the only one that came up. But David Black is such a common name.
True.
It's a Fred Smith. It's,
I was surprised.
Just like John White. Hey, I'm John Black.
I can say this. David, if you ever have trouble finding a home, you can have a home at the deaththreadfilmfest.com.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Your family.
You can have all of my films and put them up there. I'd be happy with it. And the music videos too. There's 10 Darkness Visible music videos.
Nice. I love music videos.
If you ever make it actually to the Bay Area, Death Parade Film Fest may actually create a bondage room for you, David, where you can.
Oh no,
edit that one.
No. I never got into the bondage because I found that it hurts.
That's painful. What are you talking about?
I didn't. Well, it's a bad story about how I found out that it hurts. I mean, I'd been around bondage for a long time, and I'd been out of the goth scene for maybe 3 years because I'd gone back to study IT and hadn't realised how hard IT would be. And so I didn't do anything else but study for about 3 years. And well, I only studied for 1 year, but I was broke for 2 after, having to throw in a full-time job and go back to uni. Anyway, I started going out to the clubs again. And I met this girl at a club the week before who was a friend of an old bandmate of mine. And that bandmate of mine, her name was Kat, she was a keyboardist. She introduces me to this really nicey girl. And Kat says, my band is playing next week at such and such a club. And I get there and it's a bondage club. And I bump into this girl. And she is freaking out ridiculously. It's that bad that when she comes up to talk to me and she's leaning forward, she's not only hyper speaking, she's slowly pouring her drink out on me. She's just freaking out badly. And I'm thinking, what can I do? And I'd been up and down the club. The club was 3 floors. The 3rd floor was where the bands were going to play, and the bottom floor was where we were. But the whole middle floor was a bondage thing. I mean, full on. And I'd remembered that the old bondage clubs, there were a few commercial ones that were running, and they'd let goths in for free, and we used to go, and they were fake. They weren't real bondage. And so your interrogation chair, when you went in it, basically they chained you up, but then all they did was ask the guys, because it was yobbos that went to it, that asked the yobbos, all of these questions to get them to admit something faggy about themselves. So all of their mates would say, oh, he's gay, he admitted it, whereas half the goths were probably gay, and stuff like that didn't make any difference to us. So I'd seen this, and so I thought, I'll take her upstairs and this will just have her roaring in laughter. But once I got first off, we're upstairs, and the hottest girl you've ever seen in like tight latex, everything sticking out. She comes up and says, oh, nobody wants to sit in my interrogation chair. And I've played along, and I'm thinking this girl is going to laugh because they'll just get me to say something faggy. And I said, oh, I'll sit in it. And she's got the fluffy handcuffs and she puts them on and everything. And I'm just expecting this to go funny, like what they used to do. But next thing, they've grabbed my jacket and they're going, boom. And I'm like this, and then they've put a hood on my head, and I can just sort of see out of it. They've ripped my shirt open, and I can see that there's a bloke in front of me, not the woman anymore. Uh-oh. And he's dressed in Nazi gear, which isn't exactly the nicest thing when you're a Jewish guy like me. And he doesn't even ask any questions. He just pulls out, a car battery and I don't know what you call the things that you stick onto the things, but it's going...
Jumper cables? Oh, man.
Yeah. And he's put them on my nipples. And anyway...
We should have started the show with this.
Oh, no. This session just got really bad and out of hand really fast. And I wasn't going to give in and give the code word that they gave. So I wasn't going to give in. I thought I was too tough, but I didn't quite make it to the end. So eventually that's all over. And I've been felt up and played with by 5 guys, and I have no idea where the hot girl's gone. And I've had electricity. I've had nails down my back. I've had everything. And the girl's gone. So I thought, I better just go and explain to her. So I found her, and she's freaking out even worse. It's like I've really stuffed my ex-bandmate's friend up. She's traumatized. And I've explained it to her about the old days, and she half believes me. And I said, look, let's go upstairs, right? And we'll go up to where the band is. Kat's band will be on in 20, 30 minutes. And she says, all right. And she's just slowly walking up the stairs. And anyway, the bondage people, we have to walk past them to get to the 3rd one. And they've come up to me, and I've thought, bugger this. I don't get defeated on anything. And I couldn't get through the bloody session. And I said, no, I'm going to survive a bondage session. I'm going for this. That sort of stuff.
You went back?
Oh, yeah. This time I went on the St. Andrew's Cross. And the hot-looking girl came out, and this time I wasn't blindfolded. She stayed the whole time, and she had her two assistants. I forgot what they call them, submissives, right? And so I went through another session, and I actually got through to the end despite them using an electric cattle prod. And yeah, oh, she yeah, this woman.
See, you had me at car battery. I would have been like,
Oh,
so exit.
So I won't tell,
every,
the rest.
Every safe word I ever heard of.
No, I actually got through to the end of this session, but I realised at the end of the session that bondage wasn't my shot, because they finished the session because they said, well, look, every time we touch him, he's cold to the touch. When you hit somebody, you're supposed to go warm. His body's gone into shock. And so they brought out their medics and everything and checked me over. And yeah, basically they said, mate, you just need to rest. I ended up with 3 days off of work. I couldn't make it into work, and I was bruised up and battered. And I said, none of that was fun whatsoever. I'm not doing this again.
Very smart move.
Yeah. No, it only took 2 sessions, maybe a couple of hours to learn that, but
really not. You see a car battery, cattle prod, and jumper cables. Turn around and run.
Oh no, there's more than that.
I was thinking if he runs across somebody on the road who needs their car battery jumped, he's probably going to think, "I've been there and done that." No, thanks. But thank you very much for coming on with us, David. It's been a terrific pleasure.
Oh, thank you for showing my film and having me on your show.
Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure. I hope you enjoyed Sinister Symbiosis and our chat with the writer, producer, and director, David Black. Once again, thank you very much for spending your evening with us. And we were definitely honored to premiere your film, and hopefully we can do this again.
Definitely.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, David.
All right, for Joe Flynn. Oh, sorry. For Joe Flynn, myself, Anthony DeRowan, Kevin Nicholson, and David Black, wishing you a good night. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.